Good evening, and welcome back to Third Phase UFO Report. I am your host, Michael Roser. And folks, thank you very much for joining us tonight to go through and revisit some of these incredible sightings from the past few years. Now, before we do that, I'd like to encourage anyone who hasn't to go out and see Countdown to Disclosure. It's an amazing documentary, completely relevant for our time, and is fantastically produced by the Cousins brothers, and was also released on February 16th. So go and check out this movie if you haven't seen it. You will not be disappointed. Now, without further ado, let's jump right into the sightings.
Let's roll this video. You're watching it coming in from Solothurn, Switzerland. The YouTube channel Didym uploaded this video yesterday, and whatever it was, it caught her eye. What are we looking at? Let's get a little closer look at a little brightness contrast so we can make this thing pop, whatever it is. She said she was on her way to work in the morning and she got the shock of her life. She noticed on the horizon a huge black something, she states, and after slowing down, she made a stop on the side of the road and she took a closer look, and only to realize that this thing wasn't moving an inch.
Okay, so this object is particularly curious to me for the simple fact that when you first look at it, you realize that it's oriented vertically. A lot of the crafts or objects that we see in the sky have more of a horizontal orientation, and to us that makes sense in the way of flight and how flight patterns may work. But this one is obviously stationary and has a very cylindrical shape to it overall, but again, it's vertical. Now that being said, we see that there are two protrusions or nodes, one at the top and one at the bottom, the top being a little bit more formidable in the way of the overall shape of the object, and the one on the bottom maybe being something supportive of that structure. Let's hear more about what Blake and Brent think about this incredible capture.
You can tell from the video it's a windy day, and whatever it is, it does seem very stable. She says she took out her mobile and took this video. This video was close to Solothurn, Switzerland, and it was captured within the past 24 hours. She states that some other people standing still and talking were also taking videos on the side of the road, and they say it's still not confirmed whether this is an alien or UFO or whatever it was. She's waiting to see what the media has to say, but she has given us permission to share this video right now with you. We're going to be supplying the original link below, and I want to get your thoughts. And Didym wants to get your thoughts as well as to what this object is. Brent, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, this is cool. I was searching UFOs like I usually do, and this one popped up. I asked permission, and she immediately responded and allowed us to share it, and that's awesome. Thumbs up for people from around the world sharing UFOs, granted to Third Phase of Moon. What in the world is this? This thing does not bobble like any balloon. It's stationary, very static, and it doesn't seem to flinch in any way with the atmosphere around it. It seems to be holding itself. Could this be a balloon or something else? That's the question.
That's right, Brent. If this is a balloon of some sort, it surely doesn't behave like one considering the conditions. Now, Blake also mentioned that the woman who had filmed this was not the only one at the time, and that there were multiple witnesses doing the exact same thing that she was doing. So that's interesting to think about too, considering that a lot of what we receive or what's given to us from the public to look at, usually there's an individual who's capturing the event. It's more rare that there are other people around, and even rarer are multiple people witnessing this that have no connection between one another.
Yeah, we're definitely adding some brightness contrast. I'm trying to get a closer look and see if this thing is even tethered down. If it were tethered down, you would see some kind of swaying from the left to the right, but this thing remains stationary and vertical in its position in the sky. Brent, do you see any other kind of a tether? What else do you make of this thing? What it could be?
Yeah, we're bringing it up, the contrast and everything, and nothing's coming out. I don't see no tether. Nothing's attached to this object. Whatever it is, look how long and cylindrical it is. And it even has a point on the bottom and almost a cone at the top of this thing. Is this thing scouting the area? Is it interstellar? Or what is this thing? Could it be something the government made or something not of our own?
Some kind of Elon Musk experiment being tested out there in Switzerland. But then if you look at the image itself, the kind of hue of shade it has, you could almost make out that it's way off in the distance behind those power lines below. Definitely this thing is large, in my opinion, quite large, possibly as big as a school bus.
Yeah, possibly larger. Look at those huge power poles in the background. Those things are massive, and whatever this thing is compared to that, yeah, at least the size of a bus. This thing looks metallic and almost looks like it's made of metal.
Fantastic analysis, Blake and Brent, and I have to agree that there is no visible tether anywhere to be seen. Now, this object being as high as it is above the power lines, it's still pretty close to the ground, all things considered, and if it were tethered in some way, what would it have been tethered to? It surely wouldn't be the power lines, I wouldn't think, unless there is some sort of characteristic this object holds where it is directly connected to electricity of the power lines in some way, but it's not something I've ever seen, and I'm just speculating by looking at it. Now, it's definitely a sizable object. We can see that with some of the reference points we have with other things in the foreground and the background, namely the trees and the power lines and so forth. But maybe this is a weather monitor of sort. It's an enormous looking pod, and I wonder if there's some sort of electrical equipment being stored within it. All right, let's get on to the next sighting.
And this was coming in from Politico. And Politico has put up a statement in an article saying that Mark Walker, a representative of the Congress, says that the Navy is withholding data on UFOs. He's a top Republican in the House Homeland Security Committee and is accusing the Navy of withholding information about reports of unidentified aircraft after officially requesting more data on the mysterious encounters. He also asked if officials have found any evidence, physical evidence, to substantiate the claims, and whether they are aware of any foreign nations or private companies that have introduced breakthrough technologies that could explain them.
This sighting right here and what's being said is incredible, considering the information that we just received this week about American Airlines and the pilot who had seen a cylindrical object fly over the plane. Now, we're seeing here somebody who appears probably to be a passenger filming this, again, looking like a cylindrical object out there in the skies through the window of the plane. Now, it's certainly possible that the object we're witnessing here and perhaps what the American Airlines pilot saw was an unmanned craft of some sort, the way that Blake is mentioning here, or some sort of aerial drone monitoring our skies, interfering with GPS signals, or something more nefarious.
Walker says he's discouraged by the Navy's seeming unwillingness to provide his committee with more data about the so-called unidentified aerial phenomenon. He has expressed concern publicly that the craft could pose a threat to the U.S. forces or its territories. Members of Congress on several oversight committees have also sought classified briefings from the Pentagon on the research in recent months. The Navy has insisted it's taking the reports seriously, including the potential sightings could be explained by unmanned aerial systems or pilotless drones. But Walker specifically queried in the Navy on the UAPs, not drones, citing reports of aircraft traveling at the speeds and making maneuvers that go well beyond what is believed to be technologically possible.
See, that's it exactly. We have no idea what it is that we're seeing in our skies, and until we have more information, the narrative of a threat coming from people who are simply witnessing these objects will always be present. That's why it's so important for the government and these different factions of government to come clean with us, at least to some viable degree, something that we can stand on and say, all right, there is no threat. Now, you and I may have opinions about what we're seeing, but by and large, I think that the narrative, again, of a threat is being pushed in the media, and therefore, when people see something in the sky, that may be one of the initial things that they jump to. Of course, I'm sure the Navy and Air Force are taking these sort of reports seriously, but in the way that they're aware how much we're interpreting and seeing. Not because we're giving them new information that they may be able to use, but more or less, I think, in a monitoring sense about how much we know about what they're doing. All right, moving forward to our next sighting.
Came in from the Netherlands. Take a look at this video shot by Richard Ubeck. All right, we saw this incredible raw video. Now let's enhance this, slow things down. Take a look at this. Okay, stop it right there. Slow it down. All right. Take a look at this. I want to get your comments below, people, what you think's going on.
Now, I love sightings with multiple objects, and in this one in particular, it appears to be some sort of fleet of unidentified objects just kind of flying around this particular area. Now, the speed at which these objects move is what captivates me most, I think, about this particular video. In respect to the idea of propulsion, of course, how are these things moving so quickly? They certainly don't look like drones, and I believe that these objects are bigger than they may appear against the span of the sky and the panoramic view that we have in this video. Blake and Brent, what are your thoughts?
Here we go again. Slow it down. Take a look at this. Zoom it up. Wow, this was captured during the blood moon, and this was captured on October 16, 2016, around 9:45 Central Time. He shot this with his Tamron 150 600mm lens on a Canon 70D small frame. Lens included crop factor would be about 1050 millimeters. So he has a big zoom in on this thing, or on these things, whatever they are, flying in the sky, captured during the blood moon. I asked him a few questions via email. He responded back, and he said the flight paths of the objects were clearly not planes. I asked him if there were drones, and he says he doesn't think there are drones in that area due to the fact that it would be impeding the flight path to the airfield's landing strip about 5 kilometers away behind the camera position. So no flight zone for a lot of stuff, especially drones. I could understand that. So we have to rule out drones in this. He says it's very tight airspace here, and if they would have flown at about 800 to 1,000 meters away from me, I would hear them because it's free and open space and not a lot of noise. So there was no sound on the recordings that show a use of any type of drone. So, yep, again, have to rule out drones. He says he's not sure what it is, but he would have to speculate it's not alien. He thinks this time nature was fooling us. He thinks that these lights are birds being illuminated by a greenhouse and the blood moon, and it's remarkable what the scene is that they display. What do you think?
Oftentimes, it's reported that sightings come in around certain astrological events, and in this video, Blake mentions that it is a blood moon, although that's not perhaps as significant as Jupiter or Mars getting closer to the Earth. There's probably still some impact, and still, it's very curious that we're seeing these objects at this point in time. Now, he mentioned that there's an airstrip 5 kilometers away, which of course we know that the airspace is coveted over airports and around those areas, so it would be very difficult for somebody to be up there having fun playing with some drones without any sort of consequence. I've also noticed while watching this video that the objects are not always in formation. Now, one of the thoughts put forward by the person who actually took this video was that he believed that maybe these were birds reflecting light off of a greenhouse below. Now, when you're looking at this a little closer though, these objects are still traveling in a very linear fashion, maybe not reflective of any environmental changes or wind interference that you normally would see in flight patterns with a biological entity. Very cool. And without further ado, let's move on.
Turns out his friend captured this. What you're looking at is something unexplained. We got Ray on the phone with us. Hey, thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase, Ray.
Thank you.
All right, Ray. You just gave us a cold call, and we're going over your video, or your friend's video. Tell me the circumstances behind this, and how long ago was this taken? And has anybody else seen this before besides yourself?
This video is about, I want to say 5 years old. And my friend went to visit his dad in Washington State. And as he was coming home here to Los Angeles, he noticed the cloud formation over the mountains, I guess in Washington or Oregon. But anyway, he took a video of it, and he was showing me the video. And as I was watching the video, I said, well, what's that flying by? And he says, what are you talking about? And I said, well, look at the top of the video. He didn't even know it was there.
Wow. You know, it's quite fast. It's kind of funny that he didn't even notice this thing after he's showing you the video saying, hey, take a look at this cloud. Good eye there, Ray. What did he think about that after when he pointed it out to him?
Well, he said, well, we ought to send that to the officials, you know, like the military or something, you know.
Absolutely.
He thought it was a rocket.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It looks just like a rocket. We see some propellant material burning up and being exuded out the back. You don't normally see that with a lot of the sightings that we consider to be unidentified in the way of certain high technology. This seems to be using and utilizing Newtonian physics as opposed to something more quantum-based. And look, here we go again with another object captured by a commercial airline passenger. Seems to be the motif as of recently.
I don't know what it is. It doesn't look like an airplane. You know, I didn't see any wings, but it was clipping along pretty good.
You know, that is definitely faster than any airplane leaving any kind of trail behind. Rocket, wow, that's a very, very scary thought. It's just quite strange. I want to get everybody's opinion on this and what they think it is. You know what? We're going to keep this line public. We're going to let the people know. Maybe the FAA's got an answer for this. Some kind of basically close encounter. Ray, are you still in contact with your friend? Could you try and reach out to him so we could get his opinion on what he captured? And sure like to collaborate on this.
Yeah, I haven't talked to him in over 2 years now, so it's going to be probably difficult to get a hold of him.
All right, Ray, what was the gentleman's name that captured this?
Okay, his name was Thomas Dawkins Jr.
Wow, we're going to zoom in on this, get some closer looks on this. Ray, so your opinion, what's your opinion on this? I think it could be reverse alien technology we're looking at right here.
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I can't identify it, is all I can say.
And that, my friends, is what we are left with at the very end of the day. You know, in looking at this particular footage, I really believe that this object, whatever the craft is ours. It's indicative of some secret technology that, you know, as Blake mentioned, may be reverse engineered. You know, that trail behind it is very dark, essentially black, and it dissipates very quickly, not like some of the contrails that we see. So again, it's another very interesting sighting, the same way that we've seen some of these other sightings today, and again is something that we are revisiting because we cannot forget about these events. All right, everyone, thank you very much for joining us here tonight at Third Phase UFO Report. Once again, my name is Michael Roser. Keep your eyes on the skies, everyone. We'll see you next time.
I think it's terrifying. I mean, this seems potentially like one of the biggest stories of my lifetime. And I don't care if it's about UFOs or whatever you call it. Something that we don't understand is getting very close to our military aircraft.
The technologies related to energy generation should come out first.
This hybrid aerospace underwater craft is able to basically generate an electromagnetic field.
It is President Trump's belief that the United States must remain as dominant in space as we are on land and sea and the air. And your charge is to see to that mission with the United States Space Force.
You know, there were 3 people on my team assassinated, and I was almost killed.
With a lot of people that would like to know what's going on.
It's a matter of national security.
But apparently, just recovered are off-world vehicles not made on this Earth.
The president will respond to the subject the way they want them to. There's a black box with all the technologies that would give us a civilization that's sustainable, peaceful, etc., and that's been around for decades.
Everybody's asking the biggest question in the world. Are we alone?
Look, it's holding, it's just stalled out there.
The narrative that's being launched, which is a false narrative, is that we're not alone and that those civilizations are a threat. The problem is that the public has to be informed and involved.
It could be a restatement saying, hallelujah, I'm finally vindicated.
I'm not completely convinced they're gonna let this stay like it is.
But the people who are surrounding that level of our politicians and government are not told. Like the movie Independence Day, where Will Smith goes, let's go kick alien butt.